My name is Clara, and I am 28 years old. I work as a junior financial auditor in Chicago. My job is to dive deep into an ocean of numbers and spreadsheets. Every day, I look at balance sheets, and I dig out the lies that people try so hard to bury. People think data and numbers do not have emotions, but to tell you the truth, I believe numbers never lie. They can show you a person's true colors. You just need to know how to read them. And it was exactly this profession, this habit of mine, that pulled me out of the biggest betrayal of my life. This is the story of that betrayal, and of the final move that changed everything. Today is a bitterly cold December morning. I am standing in Evanston, a neighborhood in Chicago, inside the freezing, damp, and dark garage of my own house. It is snowing outside, and it is so incredibly cold inside this garage that every breath leaving my mouth turns into visible steam. I am wearing a heavy winter jacket, and my hands are completely numb. This garage smells of decades-old dirt, engine oil, and rotting wooden furniture. A single small bulb hangs from the ceiling, casting a pale yellow light on the junk around me, and right at this moment, in this freezing cold, I can hear the loud, ringing laughter of my stepmother Evelyn and my stepsister Chloe, coming from inside my own house, from my own backyard. They are currently in the part of the house that used to be my bedroom. The room heater must be running in there. The air must smell of warm coffee, and they are busy packing for a trip to New York. They have been packing all morning. They bought brand new dresses just last night, and they feel incredibly entitled to all of it, paying for it with the money they so cunningly stole from me. Right now, in my numb hands, I am holding an old diary that belonged to my father. Its pages have turned yellow with time. The handwriting inside is my father's, revealing a truth that is setting my heart on fire. But there is no anger on my face right now, only a deep sense of peace. Because I know that in just a few hours I am going to turn their laughter and their little victory into dust forever. Before we go any further into the story, and before I tell you what happened that day, I want you to understand a bit about my past and my family. My father was a highly successful and well-respected architect. He handpicked every single corner, every single piece of wood in this house. To him, this house was not just a structure of bricks. It was his ultimate dream, a place holding the most innocent memories of my mother, my father, and me. After my mother passed away, my dad was completely broken. And then, into the loneliness of his life, came Evelyn. Evelyn brought her daughter Chloe along with her. My dad thought that maybe this house would feel like a family once again. He gave Evelyn everything: love, respect, and a very secure life. 2 years ago, when my dad suddenly passed away from a massive heart attack, my entire world was shattered. I felt like the ground had been pulled right from under my feet. At that time, on the day of the funeral, Evelyn hugged me while crying. She told me, "Clara, you are not alone. I will never let this family fall apart. We will get through this grief together." I genuinely believed that finally, in this dark hour, someone was standing by my side. Someone was trying to fill the massive void my father left behind. But I was so terribly naive. I had no idea that her sympathy, her tears, were nothing but a calculated performance. Her real motive, her true intentions, were far more terrifying, and they were about to unfold right in front of me. Just a few weeks after my dad passed, Evelyn and Chloe's true colors started to show. The atmosphere in the house suddenly became very strange and toxic. They started making every single decision about the house without even asking me. And then one day, something happened that completely opened my eyes. I came home from the office that evening, absolutely exhausted. The traffic had been a nightmare because of the heavy snow, and all I wanted to do was crash on my bed and sleep. But as I walked toward my room, I saw all my belongings, my books, my clothes, my mattress, dumped out in the hallway. I stood there frozen, completely shocked, unable to understand what was going on. That is when Evelyn walked up to me. Without an ounce of shame, without any regret, she looked at me and spoke in a voice as cold as stone. "Clara," she said, "Chloe needs a larger space for her fashion school projects and to store her wardrobe. Your room is the biggest one in the house, so I thought it would be best if you emptied it out. You can shift into the back garage. There is plenty of space in there." She said it so casually, as if she was asking a guest to leave, as if I had no right to my own home. She did not ask me, she ordered me. I could not believe my ears. I spoke up and said, "Evelyn, what are you saying? You know how freezing that garage is. There is no heater in there. It is impossible to survive the night out there, and besides, this is my room." But my words had absolutely no effect on Evelyn. She simply rolled her eyes and said, "Why don't you understand Clara? Chloe's career is just taking off. She needs more amenities right now. And you are so strong anyway. You will manage. You have to make some compromises for the sake of the family." And with that, she turned around and walked away, like she had just mentioned the weather. That night, as I carried my belongings alone into that freezing, ice-cold garage, the tears simply would not stop falling from my eyes. I wrapped myself tightly in a sleeping bag, but the freezing winter winds blowing off Lake Michigan felt like they were piercing right through the garage walls. I lay there shivering all night long, wondering what kind of woman my father had trusted. But the betrayal I felt that night was only a small glimpse of what was to come. The real hurricane was still on its way, something I had not even imagined in my worst nightmares. The very next week, I had to make a payment on my college loan. For years, I had worked part-time jobs and saved up tirelessly to build a savings account. It was a joint account with my father, because I was a minor when I opened it. After Dad passed away, Evelyn had somehow managed to gain control and access rights to that account, which I had no clue about. When I logged into my laptop to check my bank account, the number on the screen made my heart stop beating. My balance was zero. Absolute zero. All of my savings, everything I had earned with my blood, sweat, and tears over the last 8 years, was completely gone. Panicking, I quickly downloaded the bank statement and my eyes widened in horror. The entire amount had been slowly drained out over the past month, and the names of the merchants on the statement were not unknown to me. High-end designer boutiques in New York, luxury cosmetic brands from Paris, and the most expensive fine dining restaurants in Chicago. Evelyn had exploited the joint account my dad was linked to, the one holding my life savings, and she had blown every single penny on Chloe's expensive shopping sprees and her fake luxury lifestyle. Every single dollar I needed to build my career, they had burned away in the fire of their vanity and greed. At that moment, a fire ignited inside me that would have driven any normal person completely insane. I wanted to storm inside, scream at the top of my lungs, tear the house down, and demand to know why they did this to me. But I did nothing of the sort. Sitting in that freezing garage, I took a deep breath. I was not the kind of girl who cried or picked mindless fights. I did what I knew best. I pushed my emotions to the side, and I let my brain take over. An auditor's brain. An auditor never screams. An auditor never alerts the target. An auditor just quietly gathers the evidence. And that is exactly what I decided to do. The next day, when I confronted Evelyn about the account in a very subdued voice, she casually took a sip from her teacup and said without a hint of panic, "Oh, Clara, I booked Chloe's New York trip with that money ages ago. You know how much she needed this getaway after your dad passed. Besides, money comes and goes, Clara. You are earning well anyway. Chloe's future is more important right now, and you have to make these little sacrifices for the family." There was no remorse in her voice, no guilt, just a thick layer of arrogance that broke me deep inside, only to turn me back into stone. My investigation began that very night. While living in that freezing garage, I started paying close attention to every little detail. My dad used to treat this garage as his personal workshop. There was an old, dust-covered drafting table sitting in the corner for years, where he had drawn thousands of blueprints. One midnight, while pacing around to keep myself warm, my eyes fell on a piece of wood on that table that looked slightly different from the rest. I inspected it closely. There was a microscopic seam, almost invisible to the naked eye. With my trembling hands, I pressed down on that piece of wood. With a soft click, a small hidden compartment popped open. A compartment perhaps no one else in the world knew about except my dad. And now, me. My breathing grew heavy. Inside that compartment were some old documents wrapped in plastic, along with an old, leather-bound diary. I wiped off the dust and pulled the diary out. As I turned the pages and began to read, my entire world turned upside down. My dad had written that he had been growing suspicious of Evelyn for the past few months. The diary detailed all the past frauds and lies Evelyn had committed against other people before meeting him. Dad had figured out that Evelyn was only with him for his money. And the biggest bombshell of all, right alongside that diary, were legally stamped documents for an authentic trust fund. Dad had secretly set up this trust, putting all his assets, this entire house, and all his investments, solely and exclusively in my name. He had explicitly written that Evelyn and Chloe would have absolutely zero claim to this house or his wealth. That diary was like my final ray of hope, a hidden treasure. I carefully read through every single page, noting down every bank account number, every hidden transaction detail that my dad had tracked down and written with his own hands. I stayed awake the entire night in silence, using my phone scanner to make crystal clear copies of all those documents, securely backing them up to multiple cloud drives. I was terrified that Evelyn might get suspicious, so during the day, I acted completely normal. I listened to her taunts, watched Chloe laugh like a queen on my dime, and kept my mouth completely shut. The very next day, I requested an appointment with Mr. Davis, a senior and highly experienced lawyer at my firm who specialized in property and trust disputes. Sitting in his lavish office, I showed him all the documents and the diary pages. Mr. Davis read through the papers for about an hour. When he finally took off his glasses, he had a very distinct smile on his face. He said, "Clara, this trust fund is absolutely bulletproof, and no one else has any legal claim over it. Your father was a truly brilliant man, and as for the account that woman drained, we can easily file a massive fraud lawsuit against her. This case is entirely in your favor. If we go to the police right now, Evelyn could go straight to jail. In the eyes of the law, she has committed gross forgery and grand theft." I looked at him calmly and said, "Mr. Davis, I do not want to send her to jail and drag this case through the courts for years. I do not want to spend my life running around courtrooms. I just want my house and my peace of mind back. Tell me a way to banish them from my world forever, leaving them with absolutely no opportunity to ever attack me again." Mr. Davis gave me a piece of advice that changed the course of this entire story. He said, "Clara, legally, this house belongs to you. Evelyn and Chloe are merely guests, or at best, tenants without a lease agreement. You have the absolute right to evict them whenever you want. They just should not see it coming. Quietly change the locks while they are out of the house and hand them an eviction notice. This is not their home, and you need to make them realize that." Those days spent in the freezing garage were brutally hard. The cold was so intense that my bones ached constantly, but inside me there was a raging fire, accompanied by the profound peace that only comes from knowing the absolute truth and feeling your own power. Every morning, I would watch them eating breakfast at my dining table. I watched Chloe twirl in front of the mirror in her brand new designer dresses. I watched Evelyn lounging in my late mother's favorite armchair watching TV. My blood would boil, but I never let a single emotion show on my face. I just sat in the shadows, quietly preparing my final strike on my laptop. Finally, the day I had been desperately waiting for arrived. Evelyn and Chloe left for a long 4-day weekend trip to New York. Their flight tickets were, of course, paid for from my stolen account. Their grand plan was to go on a massive luxury shopping spree, dine at exclusive restaurants, and watch Broadway shows. As they loaded all their fancy luggage into the cab and drove off, I watched them through the garage window. A slow smile spread across my lips. This was my moment. It was time for action. As soon as they were out of sight, the first thing I did was call the locksmith Mr. Davis had recommended. Within half an hour, his van pulled up in my driveway. That day, I had every single lock in the house completely changed. The grand front door, the back patio door, the basement entrance, and even the door to that freezing garage where they had treated me like a stray dog. As the drill buzzed against the doors, the sound felt like a sweet reward to my ears. Once the new locks were installed, I paid the locksmith and held those shiny new brass keys tightly in the palm of my hand. They were not just keys, they were the physical weight of my freedom. After that, I deeply cleaned the entire house. I moved all my belongings, my sleeping bag, straight out of that garage and back into the large, warm master bedroom, right where I belonged. I took my dad's old portrait, the one Evelyn had carelessly tossed into a dark corner, and hung it proudly back on the living room wall. I brewed myself a steaming hot cup of coffee and sat down comfortably on the living room couch, the very couch Evelyn had banned me from. There was a strange, beautiful serenity in the house, a kind of deep peace I had not felt in months. I knew that when they returned, a massive storm would hit this silence, but I was not afraid of that storm anymore, because now, both the shield and the sword were firmly in my hands. 4 days later, on a bitterly cold Sunday afternoon, a thick white blanket of snow covered the ground outside. Suddenly, a cab pulled up into my driveway. I slightly parted the curtains of the large living room window and peeked out. Evelyn and Chloe stepped out of the cab. Their hands were full of shopping bags from New York's most expensive luxury brands, and they wore an arrogant, victorious smirk on their faces. Laughing and joking, they walked up the driveway toward the main front door. The cab had already driven away. Trying to escape the biting cold, Evelyn quickly pulled her old key out of her expensive leather purse and shoved it into the lock. The key went in, but it refused to turn. She tried 2 or 3 more times, using a bit of force. Frustrated, she aggressively yanked the door handle, but the new lock was solid and bolted shut. Evelyn glared at Chloe in sheer anger and aggressively mashed the doorbell. The loud chime echoed through the house. I slowly got up from the couch and, without rushing, walked calmly over to the intercom system mounted next to the door. I took a long, deep breath and pressed the microphone button. In an extremely calm, composed, yet powerfully firm voice, I said, "That key is not going to work here anymore, Evelyn." Outside, all the color instantly drained from Evelyn's face. She looked utterly confused about where the voice was coming from. Then, she stared directly into the camera, and with a mix of fake warmth and rising anger, she snapped, "Clara, what kind of sick joke is this? Open the door, it is freezing out here. And why did you change the locks? Stop acting like a crazy person. Chloe is exhausted and I have a terrible headache." Without raising my voice even a fraction, without showing a single drop of emotion, I replied, "This is not childish behavior, Evelyn, and it is certainly not a joke. This is exactly what the rightful owner of this house should have done a long time ago. I found Dad's old diary, and all those legal documents hidden inside the secret compartment. I know absolutely everything. I know about your past frauds, your greedy intentions, and I have the authentic trust fund document that clearly states everything is exclusively in my name. This house, down to its very last brick, belongs solely to me." Dead silence fell over the porch. A luxury shopping bag slipped right out of Chloe's hand and crashed onto the ground. Evelyn's eyes were wide with sheer terror. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, I continued. "Oh, and yes, Evelyn, the money you stole from my joint account, all the proof, the bank statements, the transaction details, and the hard evidence that you forged my signature. All of it is sitting safely on Mr. Davis's desk right now. I have already arranged for all the files to be sent directly to the county court and police headquarters tomorrow morning. In the eyes of the law, it is called financial fraud and grand theft, and it carries a sentence that will put you in a federal prison for years." Evelyn's arrogance was completely shattered. Her voice trembled as she screamed, "You cannot do this, Clara. I am like a mother to you. I am your family." I replied coldly, "You did not think about family for a single second when you threw me into that freezing garage to sleep in the dead of winter, Evelyn. You did not think about family for a single second when you blew my entire life savings on your vanity. So do not bother crying or screaming now. It is not going to work." Then I continued, "If you want this to end right here, and if you want to spend the rest of your days walking free instead of rotting in a jail cell, you have exactly one option, and this is my final offer to you. Take the path that is right in front of you. Pick up all your expensive bags that you brought from New York. Call another cab. And leave this city right now, this very second, and never come back. I will throw whatever junk you left inside into the dumpster tomorrow. But if I see either of your faces anywhere near this city or my house by tomorrow morning, or if you even try to call my phone, you both will be eating your breakfast behind bars tomorrow. The choice is yours." Through the intercom, I could hear their terrifying silence and raw fear. Chloe broke down into violent sobs, cursing her own mother for dragging her into this mess. Evelyn had absolutely no idea what to do. She made one last, desperate, pathetic attempt to fight back. She threatened me. She faked crying. She put on an act of begging for forgiveness. She promised to try and return every single penny. But I had already taken my finger off the intercom button. My decision was final, and there was absolutely zero room for compromise. I stood by the window, watching them. It slowly dawned on them that their little game was truly over. Their lies were completely exposed, and standing out there in the cold would only destroy whatever tiny shred of dignity they had left. After shivering on the porch for what felt like an eternity, Evelyn, looking like an utterly defeated and broken person, quietly picked up her bags. She called a cab, and without saying a single word to each other, they both got in and drove away. When the cab disappeared around the corner of the street, leaving nothing but tire tracks in the snow, I finally let out a long, deep breath. I knew they would never come back. They had absolutely no courage left to ever face me again. That night, for the first time in years, I slept in my own warm bedroom, in my own comfortable bed. It was a sleep free of fear, free of the biting cold, and free of any anxiety. It was the peaceful sleep of pure freedom and ultimate victory. Life is never easy, and to be completely honest, sometimes you have to fight the biggest and most painful battles against your own family. You have to become your strongest self precisely when the people closest to you are trying their hardest to break you. But through all of this, I learned one important lesson. If you stand firmly by the truth, if your intentions are unshakable, and if you have the courage to fight for your rights quietly, without making a single sound, then no one, no matter how cunning or manipulative they are, can ever defeat you. I got my house back, my hard-earned money back, my life back, and most importantly, I got my self-respect back. And I did all of it without stooping to their level, without raising my hand or my voice. I did it simply with a calm mind, absolute competence, and the final blessing my father left behind for me in that diary. If this long and true story touched your heart even a little bit, or if it made you realize that there are moments in life when you must stop crying and stand up strong, please give this video a like. Share your thoughts and experiences with me in the comments, and tell me what you would have done if you were in my shoes. And for more true, inspiring, and deeply moving long stories just like this one, do not forget to subscribe to BookBite Studio. Thank you so much, and take care of yourself.